Picture this. A young black woman walks through the doors of Riverside Academy, carrying nothing but a worn leather briefcase and unshakable determination. The students size her up immediately, especially the ruthless trio led by Connor Walsh. Kids who've made seasoned teachers flee in tears within weeks. They see fresh prey, someone they believe will crumble under their vicious attacks. What they can't possibly know is that beneath her professional exterior lies a devastating secret. She holds a second-degree black belt in boxing, earned through 12 brutal years of training that forged her into a fighter who never backs down. This is the story of Simone Washington, a new teacher whose hidden strength is about to turn Riverside Academy upside down and teach these bullies a lesson they'll carry for the rest of their lives. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Simone Washington steps out of her modest blue sedan in the faculty parking lot of Riverside Academy, her fingers gripping the handle of a weathered brown briefcase that belonged to her grandmother. Inside are carefully organized lesson plans, a few worn textbooks, and a small photo of her late father. In his army uniform, her source of strength on difficult days. Today marks her fresh start after leaving Detroit, the city where she spent 26 years, building herself into the woman she is now. The September morning air carries the scent of fallen leaves and new beginnings as Simone takes a deep breath, steadying her nerves. At 26, she possesses a quiet confidence that draws people in, warm brown eyes that seem to see straight through pretense, natural hair styled in elegant twists, and a professional demeanor that commands respect without demanding it. She wears a crisp white blouse under a charcoal blazer, her appearance polished yet approachable. Hidden beneath this composed exterior is a truth that would shock anyone who meets her. Simone Washington is a second-degree black belt in boxing. For 12 years, she dedicated herself to the sport with religious devotion, training at Murphy's Gym in downtown Detroit under the watchful eye of former professional boxer Coach Ray Murphy. Every morning before dawn, every evening after work, she honed her craft through countless hours of shadowboxing, heavy bag training, and sparring sessions that left her bloodied but unbroken. Boxing became her sanctuary after her father's death when she was 14. Sergeant Marcus Washington had been her hero, a man who taught her that true strength comes from protecting others, not from seeking fights. When he died serving overseas, Simone channeled her grief into her fists. But Coach Murphy taught her something more valuable than throwing punches. He taught her discipline, patience, and the wisdom to know when to fight and when to walk away. Now, as she walks toward Riverside Academy's imposing brick facade, Simone keeps those boxing skills buried deep. She believes in leading with kindness, in reaching students through understanding rather than intimidation. Her muscled shoulders remain relaxed beneath her blazer, her calloused knuckles hidden within her briefcase handle. Riverside Academy stands as the crown jewel of suburban Connecticut, its ivy-covered walls and pristine courtyards projecting an image of academic excellence and privilege. Parents pay top dollar to send their children here, believing money can purchase not just education, but character. Yet beneath this gleaming surface lurks a darker reality that the administration desperately tries to conceal, a toxic culture of entitlement and cruelty that has festered for years. The hallways echo with the click of Simone's modest heels as curious eyes follow her path. Students whisper behind perfectly manicured hands, some offering tentative smiles while others regard her with the calculated coldness that money often breeds. She responds to each glance with a warm nod, her grandmother's voice echoing in her memory. Kill them with kindness, baby girl. That's how you change hearts. Room 124 becomes her new domain, a spacious classroom with tall windows, overlooking the school's pristine soccer field. Simone arranges the desks in clusters to encourage collaboration and places a small succulent on the windowsill, a touch of life in the sterile environment. When the first bell rings, she positions herself at the door, greeting each entering student with genuine warmth and eye contact that many find surprisingly disarming. Most students respond with polite curiosity, unused to such personal attention from faculty. But as the classroom fills, tension begins to radiate from a particular corner where three boys sit with predatory awareness. Leading them is Connor Walsh, a 17-year-old with perfectly styled auburn hair and eyes like winter storms. His designer clothes and confident posture scream privilege, but there's something darker lurking beneath his polished exterior. Connor Walsh is the son of Senator Patricia Walsh, a woman whose political influence reaches far beyond Connecticut's borders. He's grown up believing that rules are suggestions, that consequences are for people without connections, and that his mother's power makes him untouchable. His striking good looks and athletic build have always attracted followers, but Connor rules through fear disguised as charisma. Flanking Connor is Marcus Rodriguez, a stocky boy whose silence carries more menace than any words could. Marcus comes from old money. His family owns a chain of luxury resorts throughout New England. Unlike Connor's flashy displays of power, Marcus operates through calculated intimidation. His muscular frame, built through years of prep school wrestling, serves as his primary tool of persuasion. Teachers have learned to look the other way when Marcus flexes his authority, too afraid of his family's legal team to intervene. The third member of this toxic triangle is Benjamin Chun, whose deceptively innocent appearance masks a brilliant and twisted mind. The son of prominent tech entrepreneurs, Benjamin inherited both exceptional intelligence and a complete lack of empathy. While Connor provides the charisma and Marcus supplies the muscle, Benjamin orchestrates their campaigns of psychological warfare with surgical precision. His baby face and honor roll grades have convinced adults that he's harmless, allowing him to operate in shadows while his victims suffer in silence. Together, these three have transformed Riverside Academy into their personal kingdom of cruelty. They've perfected the art of destroying lives while maintaining plausible deniability, driving away 7 teachers in the past 2 years alone. Their methods are sophisticated, spreading carefully crafted rumors, orchestrating social exile, and applying pressure through channels their victims never see coming. Their last conquest was Mr. Thompson, a beloved English teacher with 20 years of experience who dared to challenge Connor's plagiarism. Within 3 weeks, Thompson found his car vandalized, his personal information leaked online, and his classroom authority completely undermined. He took early retirement rather than face another day of their psychological torture. Now, as Simone closes the classroom door and moves to the front with quiet confidence, she has no idea she's already been marked as their next target. Connor's jaw tightens as he watches her command the room with natural authority, her very presence challenging the fear-based system he's worked so hard to establish. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Ms. Washington, and I'm excited to be your new English teacher," Simone begins, her voice carrying warmth that seems to fill every corner of the room. "Before we dive into literature, I'd like to know what you hope to discover this year." Several students eagerly raise their hands, their enthusiasm genuine in the face of her encouraging smile. But Connor's cold stare never wavers, his mind already calculating how quickly he can break this new teacher's spirit. He exchanges meaningful glances with Marcus and Benjamin, a silent communication that has served them well in previous campaigns. As Simone facilitates discussion about their reading preferences and goals, she notices the toxic energy emanating from the back corner, but refuses to let it dim her enthusiasm. She's faced hostile environments before, in boxing gyms where she had to prove herself against men twice her size, in graduate school where professors questioned her capabilities, in life situations where backing down seemed like the easier choice. What Connor Walsh and his crew don't understand is that they're not facing another frightened teacher hoping to survive until retirement. They're facing a woman who learned to fight in the most literal sense, who understands that bullies only respect strength, and who carries within her the combined spirits of a fallen soldier, father, and a grandmother who never met a challenge she couldn't overcome. The class period ends with students filing out in animated conversation about the day's discussion, many already showing signs of genuine engagement. But as Connor rises from his seat, he pauses at Simon's desk with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "Welcome to Riverside Academy, Miss Washington," he says, his tone carrying undertones that make several nearby students glance nervously in their direction. "I hope you're ready for what this place has to offer." His words hang in the air like a challenge, and Simone meets his gaze with steady brown eyes that betray no fear. "Thank you, Connor. I'm looking forward to getting to know all my students better." As the three boys exit together, their whispered conversation carries an ominous energy that seems to lower the temperature in the room. Simone gathers her materials. With practiced calm, her heart rate steady despite recognizing the unmistakable signs of trouble ahead, she's walked into a war zone disguised as an elite academy, facing opponents who've never encountered someone with her unique combination of inner strength and hidden skills. But Simone Washington didn't survive 12 years of boxing training and a lifetime of challenges by backing down from fights that mattered. The battle for Riverside Academy's soul is about to begin, and neither side knows yet just how dramatically. This confrontation will reshape everything they thought they understood about power, courage, and the true meaning of strength. The following morning arrives with an unseasonable chill that seems to seep through Riverside Academy's pristine walls. Simone enters her classroom early, as is her habit, arranging handouts for the day's lesson on courage and literature. An ironic choice, given what's about to unfold. She's dressed in a navy dress with a cream cardigan, her hair pulled back in a professional bun that reveals the determined set of her jaw. Connor Walsh stalks through the hallways with purpose, his designer backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder. Last night's strategy session with Marcus and Benjamin had yielded their opening move, something subtle enough to test this new teacher's resolve without triggering immediate administrative intervention. Connor's experience has taught him that breaking teachers requires a methodical approach, like slowly turning up heat under a pot until the water finally boils over. The first warning sign comes during the third period, when Simone discovers her car in the faculty parking lot. 4 flat tires, each one precisely punctured in a way that suggests deliberate vandalism rather than random mischief. She crouches beside her sedan, running her fingers along the clean cuts in the rubber, her boxing-trained mind automatically cataloging the calculated nature of the attack. Standing in the parking lot, Simone pulls out her phone and begins documenting the damage with methodical precision. Each photo captures different angles, close-ups of the puncture marks and the surrounding area. Her father's military training had rubbed off on her, even as a child, always gathering evidence, always staying calm under pressure, always thinking 3 moves ahead. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Rough morning, Ms. Washington. The voice belongs to Dr. Patricia Hendricks, the school's assistant principal, a woman in her 50s whose perpetually worried expression suggests she's seen too many battles she couldn't win. Her sympathy seems genuine, but there's a wariness in her eyes that hints at deeper knowledge about Riverside's problems. "Just some car trouble," Simone replies evenly, slipping her phone back into her pocket. "Nothing I can't handle." Dr. Hendricks' lips press into a thin line. "If you need to file a report with campus security, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you." But Simone already knows that involving security would likely lead nowhere. She's heard whispers in the faculty lounge about previous incidents that mysteriously disappeared from official records, about investigations that stalled whenever certain family names appeared in the paperwork. The message is clear. She's on her own, back in her classroom, Simone begins her lesson on Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, specifically focusing on Atticus Finch's moral courage in the face of social pressure. The irony isn't lost on her, as she discusses how individuals must sometimes stand alone against corrupt systems, especially with Connor's cold stare burning into her from the back row. Courage isn't a man with a gun in his hand, Simone reads aloud from the text. It's knowing you're licked before you begin, but beginning anyway, and seeing it through to the end. Connor's hand shoots up with mock enthusiasm. Ms. Washington, don't you think some people just don't know when they're beaten? Like, maybe they should just accept their place instead of causing problems for everyone. The question hangs in the air like a blade, its double meaning unmistakable. Several students shift uncomfortably, recognizing the underlying threat. Simone meets Connor's gaze directly, her voice remaining steady and professional. That's an interesting perspective, Connor. But I think Lee is suggesting that real courage means doing what's right, even when it's difficult. Sometimes the problems we cause by standing up are necessary for positive change. Connor's smile falters slightly, his expectation of intimidating her clearly unmet. Marcus cracks his knuckles loudly from the adjacent desk, a sound that makes other students flinch, but Simone continues her lesson without missing a beat. During lunch period, Simone discovers the next phase of their campaign. Her faculty mailbox overflows with anonymous notes, some containing crude insults about her race, others making veiled threats about her safety, and several featuring doctored photos from social media designed to embarrass and humiliate her. The notes are printed on expensive paper, the kind available in Riverside's computer lab, and the language shows an education level that narrows down the suspect pool considerably. Benjamin Chin's fingerprints are all over this operation, though proving it would be nearly impossible. The boy has learned to cover his tracks through years of practice, using proxy accounts and carefully timed access to avoid detection. His technical skills, combined with his family's legal resources, make him virtually untouchable through conventional means. That afternoon brings the first direct confrontation. As Simone organizes papers at her desk after dismissal, Connor enters with Marcus flanking him like a bodyguard. Benjamin follows at a distance, positioning himself near the door as if standing watch. "We need to talk," Connor announces, dropping into a front-row desk with calculated casualness. His tone carries the entitled confidence of someone who's never faced real consequences for his actions. Simone looks up from her grading, her expression neutral. "What can I help you with, Connor?" "See, that's the problem right there," Connor says, leaning back in the chair with a smirk. "You think you can help me? But here's the reality. Teachers come and go at Riverside. Students like me, we're permanent fixtures. Our families built this place." Marcus steps closer, using his bulk to create a sense of physical intimidation. His wrestling background shows in the way he moves, controlled, but threatening. "Maybe you should consider finding a position somewhere more suitable," he adds quietly. The subtext is unmistakable, but Simone remains seated, her hands folded calmly on the desk. Inside, she can feel the familiar stirring of controlled aggression that 12 years of boxing taught her to channel. Her breathing remains steady, her posture relaxed, but every muscle fiber is coiled and ready. "I appreciate your concern for my career," she replies with gentle sarcasm, "but I'm quite happy here. Was there anything else?" Connor's face flushes with anger at her dismissive tone. He's unaccustomed to adults who don't cower when he applies pressure, and her composure is clearly rattling his confidence. "You have no idea what you're getting into," he hisses, standing abruptly. "Ask around about what happened to the last few teachers who thought they could change things here." "I'll be sure to do that," Simone says, turning back to her papers as if the conversation is over. The three boys exchange frustrated glances before filing out, their whispered conversation carrying an ominous undertone. Once they're gone, Simone finally allows herself a long exhale, her hands trembling slightly as the adrenaline begins to subside. That evening in her small apartment, Simone sits at her kitchen table with her laptop open, methodically organizing the evidence she's collected. Photos of her vandalized car, screenshots of the threatening messages, documentation of today's intimidation attempt. Her father's voice echoes in her memory. Preparation prevents poor performance, sweetheart. Always be ready for the next battle. She pulls out her phone and scrolls through her contacts until she finds Coach Murphy's number. Despite moving away from Detroit, she's maintained her relationship with the man who taught her that fighting isn't about anger. It's about protecting what matters. Ray, it's Simone. I'm fine, but I wanted to ask you something. If someone was trying to break you down piece by piece, how long would you let it go on before you showed them who they were really dealing with? Coach Murphy's gravelly laugh carries through the phone. Baby girl, you know the answer to that. You let them think they're winning right up until the moment you show them they picked the wrong fight. But remember, it's not about hurting them. It's about making them understand they can't hurt you. After hanging up, Simone walks to her bedroom closet and pulls out a small wooden box from the top shelf. Inside, wrapped in soft cloth, are her boxing gloves, worn leather that's absorbed years of sweat, determination, and triumph. She slips them on, feeling the familiar weight and comfort they provide. Standing in front of her bathroom mirror, Simone throws a few shadow punches, her form perfect despite months away from serious training. Her reflection shows someone who's been tested before and emerged stronger, someone who understands that real power doesn't announce itself with threats and intimidation. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, she knows. Connor and his crew are just getting started, and their next moves will likely be more aggressive as they realize she won't be easily intimidated. But as she carefully returns the gloves to their box, Simone feels a calm certainty settling over her. She came to Riverside Academy to teach literature and inspire young minds. But if these boys want to turn her classroom into a battleground, they're about to learn that they've chosen the wrong opponent. Simone Washington has faced down opponents, twice her size in boxing rings where mercy wasn't an option, where survival meant finding strength she didn't know she possessed. The real fight is about to begin, and Connor Walsh has no idea he's about to face someone who learned long ago that the most dangerous fighters are the ones who don't look dangerous at all. 3 weeks into October, the harassment campaign reaches a fever pitch that would have broken most teachers by now. Simone arrives each morning to find new damage, her classroom windows soaked with crude messages, her desk drawers filled with rotting food, and her personal belongings mysteriously disappearing only to reappear in humiliating locations around campus. The psychological warfare extends beyond physical vandalism. Benjamin Chun has orchestrated a sophisticated digital assault that would impress cybersecurity experts. Fake social media profiles bearing Simone's name and photo spread lies about her past, claiming she was fired from her previous position for inappropriate conduct. The accounts post inflammatory content designed to alienate her from both colleagues and the broader community. Parents begin calling the school with concerns based on these fabricated stories. Principal Morrison, a weak-willed administrator more concerned with avoiding controversy than protecting his staff, starts questioning Simone's qualifications during their weekly meetings. His obvious discomfort suggests he's receiving pressure from influential board members, likely parents whose last names match those of her tormentors. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at a different type of institution, Morrison suggests. During one particularly tense meeting, his bald head glistening with nervous perspiration. Riverside has very particular expectations for its faculty. Simone sits across from him with perfect posture, her hands clasped calmly in her lap despite the fury burning in her chest. My students are responding well to my teaching methods, and my test scores exceed district averages. What specific expectations am I failing to meet? Morrison shifts uncomfortably, unable to articulate complaints that would expose the real source of his concerns. Well, there have been concerns raised about your fit with our school culture. Concerns from whom? Simone presses, though she already knows the answer. The principal's silence speaks volumes. Outside his office window, she can see Connor Walsh waiting in the hallway with a satisfied smirk, clearly aware of the meeting's agenda. The boy's confidence is nauseating. He genuinely believes his family's political connections make him untouchable. Meanwhile, Marcus Rodriguez has ramped up his intimidation tactics with other students who might support Simone. Quiet freshmen like Emma Martinez find themselves slammed against lockers when they dare to participate enthusiastically in English class. Junior Timothy Brooks discovers his lunch money missing daily after he publicly praised Simone's teaching style. The message spreads quickly. Anyone who shows loyalty to the new teacher will face consequences. The most insidious aspect of their campaign targets Simone's connection with struggling students. She's been working after school with kids who need extra help, particularly those from less privileged backgrounds who attend Riverside on scholarship. Connor and his crew systematically isolate these vulnerable students, spreading rumors that Simone is only helping them to make herself look good, that she's using them for some hidden agenda. Sarah Kim, a brilliant sophomore from a working class Korean family, stops coming to tutoring sessions after someone plants stolen merchandise in her backpack and threatens to report her unless she distances herself from that teacher. The girl's tears during their last conversation haunt Simone's dreams. She's watching innocent students suffer because they dared to trust her. Dr. Hendricks tries to provide warnings when she can, speaking in coded language during brief hallway encounters. Storm clouds gathering, she murmurs one afternoon while passing Simone's classroom. Barometric pressure dropping fast. The older woman's cryptic messages confirm what Simone already suspects. Something big is coming. Connor's growing frustration with her resilience is pushing him toward more desperate measures. His previous victims crumbled under far less pressure, but Simone's refusal to break is making him look weak in front of his followers. That weakness becomes apparent during lunch period when Simone overhears a heated argument in the empty hallway outside her classroom. Connor's voice carries through the thin walls, sharp with anger and desperation. She should be gone by now. Every other teacher was crying and begging to transfer after 2 weeks. Maybe we need to try something different, Benjamin's voice responds. Calm and calculating as always. Something more public. I don't care what we do, Marcus growls, but this needs to end. She's making us look like idiots. Simone presses closer to the door, her boxing-trained hearing picking up every whispered word of their planning session. What she learns makes her blood run cold. They're orchestrating something for Friday's faculty lunch meeting, an event where the entire teaching staff gathers in the main dining hall. Everyone will see, Connor says with vicious satisfaction. She'll be humiliated in front of every teacher and administrator. After that, she have no choice but to leave. The specifics remain unclear, but Simone understands enough to know. She's walking into an ambush. Friday is 3 days away, time enough to prepare, but not enough to avoid the confrontation entirely. Running would mean abandoning her students and proving that money and influence can triumph over justice. That evening, Simone drives to an abandoned parking lot outside town and spends an hour hitting the heavy bag she keeps in her trunk. Her combinations flow with devastating precision. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, each punch channeling months of suppressed frustration. Sweat drips from her face as she visualizes not Connor's smug features, but the abstract concept of injustice itself. Coach Murphy's voice echoes in her memory from their phone conversation the night before, when someone keeps poking a sleeping lion. Eventually that lion's gonna show them why it's the king of the jungle. Just make sure when you roar, it's for the right reasons. Friday morning arrives with unseasonable warmth. as if nature itself is holding its breath. Simone dresses carefully in a burgundy blazer and black slacks, professional but allowing for movement if necessary. She braids her hair tightly, knowing from experience that loose strands can become liabilities in confrontational situations. The faculty lunch meeting takes place in Riverside's elegant dining hall, a space designed to impress visiting donors with its crystal chandeliers and mahogany paneling. Teachers cluster around circular tables, sharing gossip and complaints over catered sandwiches and salads. Simone chooses a seat near the back exit, her positioning automatic after years of situational awareness training. She engages in polite conversation with Mrs. Peterson, an elderly math teacher who's been kind despite the swirling rumors, but her peripheral vision tracks every movement in the room. Connor, Marcus, and Benjamin enter together, their casual confidence suggesting this is just another day of normal teenage behavior. They position themselves at a table with clear sight lines to Simone's location, their body language radiating anticipation. Principal Morrison begins his weekly announcements, droning about budget concerns and upcoming evaluations. The atmosphere remains relaxed until Connor stands abruptly, claiming he needs to retrieve something from his backpack near the serving area. What he retrieves is a large chocolate milkshake, the kind sold at the student snack bar. Several teachers glance over curiously as he approaches the podium where Morrison continues speaking, but no one suspects the truth until it's too late. "Excuse me, Principal Morrison," Connor interrupts with false politeness. "I think there's something everyone should know about our newest faculty member." The room falls silent as all eyes turn toward Connor, then follow his pointed gaze to Simone's table. Her muscles tense involuntarily, every instinct screaming that the moment of truth has finally arrived. Ms. Washington has been spreading lies about students and their families, Connor announces, his voice carrying clearly across the dining hall. "She's been trying to turn kids against their parents and destroy our school's reputation." The accusation is absurd, but Connor's performance is convincing enough to plant seeds of doubt. Several teachers exchange uncertain glances while Morrison fumbles for an appropriate response. Then Connor makes his fatal mistake. With theatrical fury, he hurls the chocolate milkshake directly at Simone's face, expecting her to cower in humiliation while brown liquid drips from her hair and stains her professional attire. Instead, Simone's reflexes kick in with lightning speed. Her head tilts exactly 6 inches to the left. Her body leans back at precisely the right angle, and the milkshake sails harmlessly past her to splatter against the wall behind. The dining hall freezes in stunned silence. Connor's mouth hangs open in disbelief. The carefully planned humiliation has failed spectacularly. But he's committed now, his reputation on the line in front of the entire faculty. "You think you're better than everyone else," he shouts, lunging forward with his fists raised. That's when Simone Washington finally shows Riverside Academy exactly who they've been dealing with all along. Time slows to a crawl as Connor charges forward, his face twisted with entitled rage. Every teacher in the dining hall watches in horrified fascination as the senator's son abandons all pretense of civility. His right fist swings in a wild haymaker aimed at Simone's jaw, the kind of sloppy punch thrown by someone who's never faced real resistance. Simone rises from her chair with fluid grace, her movement so smooth it appears almost choreographed. Her left hand deflects Connor's punch with a subtle parry that sends his momentum sideways, while her right hand grasps his wrist with the precision of someone who's practiced this exact scenario thousands of times. The reversal happens so quickly that most observers barely register the technique. One moment Connor is attacking with teenage fury. The next he's bent forward at an awkward angle, his arm twisted behind his back in a control hold that immobilizes him completely. His designer shirt wrinkles as Simone maintains just enough pressure to keep him still without causing actual injury. "Connor," she says quietly, her voice carrying across the silent dining hall with startling clarity. This is your chance to walk away and apologize. I suggest you take it. But humiliation has driven Connor beyond rational thought. As Simone releases him, expecting compliance, he spins around and throws another wild swing. This time, her response is unmistakably martial arts. She sidesteps. With the boxer's footwork, her rear foot pivoting as her torso rotates away from the punch. Her counter comes as a controlled jab that stops precisely 1 inch from Connor's nose, close enough that he can feel the displacement of air. Far enough to prove she chose restraint over violence. The demonstration of skill is impossible to misinterpret. Gasps echo through the dining hall as faculty members realize they're witnessing something extraordinary. Mrs. Peterson's sandwich falls forgotten to her plate, while the younger teachers fumble for their phones to record what's unfolding. She knows how to fight, someone whispers in amazement. Marcus Rodriguez crashes into the scene like a bull, his wrestling background evident in his aggressive takedown attempt. He wraps his thick arms around Simone's waist from behind, trying to lift her off her feet and slam her to the ground. It's a move that's worked countless times against smaller opponents who lacked proper training. But Simone's response reveals years of grappling defense drilled into muscle memory. She drops her center of gravity, hooks her leg behind his ankle, and uses his own momentum to send him tumbling backward. As Marcus hits the polished floor with a resounding thud, she steps clear with the casual ease of someone swatting away an annoying fly. The watching teachers erupt in shocked murmurs. Doctor. Hendricks covers her mouth with both hands, her eyes wide with a mixture of horror and admiration. Principal Morrison stands frozen at the podium, his face cycling through confusion, fear, and the dawning realization that his liability concerns have just multiplied exponentially. Benjamin Chen approaches from Simone's blind spot, moving with the calculated stealth that makes him the most dangerous member of the trio. His attack comes not as a wild punch, but as a deliberate attempt to grab her arm and twist it behind her back, a technique he learned from expensive self-defense classes his parents insisted upon. Simone senses his presence before he makes contact, her boxing-trained peripheral awareness picking up his movement. She pivots smoothly, catches his grasping hand in both of hers, and applies a standing armbar that drops him to one knee with surgical precision. Benjamin, she says conversationally, maintaining the hold with minimal effort. You're clearly intelligent enough to recognize when you're outmatched. Are you ready to discuss this like civilized people? The boy's face contorts with pain and humiliation as he nods frantically. Simone releases him immediately, stepping back to give all three boys space to collect themselves. Her breathing remains steady, her professional blazer barely wrinkled despite neutralizing 3 attackers in under 30 seconds. The dining hall falls into stunned silence, broken only by Marcus's groaning as he struggles to sit up. Connor clutches his twisted wrist, his eyes blazing with disbelief at being physically dominated by someone he'd dismissed as easy prey. Benjamin massages his shoulder, his calculating mind clearly reassessing everything he thought he knew about their target. Gentlemen, Simone addresses them with calm authority, you've just learned an important lesson about making assumptions. I suggest you use this opportunity to reflect on your behavior and consider making better choices going forward. Connor's voice cracks with barely controlled fury. You attacked us. Everyone saw it. You assaulted students. Principal Morrison finally finds his voice, though it emerges as a strangled whisper. Miss Washington, what how did you Self-defense, Simone replies simply, smoothing down her blazer with steady hands. These young men initiated physical violence against a faculty member in front of multiple witnesses. I responded with the minimum force necessary to protect myself. Dr. Hendricks steps forward, her authoritative voice cutting through the chaos. I saw everything. Miss Washington was attacked and defended herself appropriately. Connor threw the First punch, Marcus attempted a tackle, and Benjamin tried to grab her from behind. Other teachers begin nodding in agreement, their initial shock giving way to grudging respect. Mr. Santiago, the young Pei teacher, speaks up with obvious admiration. That was some seriously impressive defensive work. Where did you learn to fight like that? Detroit Police Athletic League, Simone answers truthfully. 12 years of boxing training under Coach Ray Murphy, former Golden Gloves champion. Self-defense was part of the curriculum. The revelation ripples through the room like a shockwave. Suddenly, Connor's failed intimidation campaign makes perfect sense. They'd been trying to break someone who'd spent over a decade learning to absorb punishment and fight back strategically. Connor struggles to his feet, his face flushed with embarrassment and rage. This isn't over, he hisses, but his threat lacks the confident menace he's wielded for years. My mother will have your job for this. Your mother is welcome to review the security footage, Simone replies calmly, gesturing toward the cameras mounted in the dining hall's corners. I'm confident it will show exactly what happened here. The mention of video evidence drains the color from all three boys' faces. In their fury, they'd forgotten about Riverside's comprehensive surveillance system, the same technology that had mysteriously malfunctioned during their previous campaigns of harassment. Benjamin, ever the strategist, recognizes the shift in power dynamics immediately. Connor, maybe we should just shut up. Connor snaps, his privileged worldview crumbling around him. For the first time in his life, money and connections can't undo the consequences of his actions. The footage is irrefutable, the witnesses numerous, and his target has proven she's anything but helpless. Marcus limps toward the exit, his wrestling pride shattered by being tossed aside like a child. This is messed up, he mutters, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. As the three boys retreat in defeat, the dining hall buzzes with excited conversation. Teachers who'd watched Simone endure weeks of harassment now see her in an entirely new light. The quiet, professional educator has revealed herself as someone with the skills to end conflicts decisively when pushed too far. Mrs. Peterson approaches with tears in her eyes. My dear, why didn't you tell anyone you could defend yourself? We were all so worried about those boys targeting you. Simone's expression softens as she addresses the elderly teacher. Because I hoped it wouldn't be necessary. I came here to teach literature and inspire young minds, not to fight. But sometimes we have to protect ourselves and the values we believe in. Principal Morrison clears his throat nervously, clearly struggling with the implications of what he's witnessed. Ms. Washington, perhaps we should discuss this incident in my office. Of course, Simone agrees, gathering her purse with the same composed demeanor she's maintained throughout the confrontation. I'll be happy to provide a full statement about today's events. As she walks toward the exit, every teacher in the room watches with newfound respect. The woman they'd seen as a potential victim has revealed herself as someone capable of standing up to any challenge. More importantly, she'd shown remarkable restraint in doing so, using only the force necessary to end the threat without seriously injuring her attackers. Dr. Hendricks falls into step beside her, speaking quietly. That was beautifully handled. Firm but controlled, defensive but decisive. I suspect those boys will think twice before bothering anyone else. Simone nods thoughtfully. Let's hope so. But something tells me this confrontation was just the beginning. Connor Walsh doesn't seem like someone who accepts defeat gracefully. Indeed, as the three boys huddle together outside the building, their whispered conversation carries an ominous undertone. They've discovered that their new teacher possesses skills they never anticipated. But rather than discouraging them, the revelation seems to have ignited an even more dangerous determination to bring her down. The weekend following the dining hall confrontation brings an eerie calm to Riverside Academy, like the deceptive stillness before a hurricane makes landfall. Simone spends Saturday morning at a local boxing gym, working through combinations on the heavy bag while processing the week's events. Her movements flow with renewed confidence. The secret she'd carried for months is finally out, and the relief is almost intoxicating. Monday arrives with unexpected developments. As Simone enters the faculty parking lot, she notices something remarkable. Teachers who'd previously avoided eye contact now nod respectfully, some even offering genuine smiles. Her reputation has undergone a complete transformation overnight, shifting from vulnerable newcomer to someone who commands respect through demonstrated strength. Mrs. Peterson waves enthusiastically from across the lot. "Simone, dear, I brought you some homemade cookies. After Friday's excitement, I thought you deserved a proper thank you." The elderly math teacher's gesture represents a broader shift in faculty dynamics. Teachers who'd watched helplessly as previous colleagues were driven away now see Simone as proof that bullies can be defeated. Their newfound confidence creates a ripple effect throughout the school's social ecosystem. But Connor Walsh isn't finished. If anything, his public humiliation has transformed his entitled anger into something far more dangerous. Over the weekend, he'd convinced himself that Simone's fighting skills were somehow unfair, that she'd cheated by not revealing her background. In his twisted logic, he'd become the victim of her deception. The first sign of escalation comes during the second period when Sarah Kim approaches Simone's desk with tears streaming down her face. The sophomore's hands shake as she places a crumpled note on the wooden surface. Double quotes, they ... "They said if I don't give this to you, they'll make sure I lose my scholarship," Sarah whispers. Simone unfolds the paper to reveal a message printed in block letters. "The boxing bitch thinks she won. Meet US in the old gym after school, or we'll destroy every student who supports you." The threat is sophisticated in its cruelty. Rather than targeting Simone directly, they're weaponizing her protective instincts against vulnerable students. She recognizes Benjamin's strategic thinking in the approach, using her compassion as a weakness to exploit. "Sarah," Simone says gently, placing a reassuring hand on the girl's shoulder, "you did the right thing bringing this to me. They can't touch your scholarship. That's not how the system works." But even as she offers comfort, Simone knows the boys have found her pressure point. They're counting on her inability to watch innocent students suffer for her defiance. The day unfolds with increasing tension as Connor and his crew implement a campaign of intimidation, targeting anyone who's shown Simone support. Emma Martinez finds her art project vandalized beyond repair. Timothy Brooks discovers his locker combination changed and his textbooks missing. Even quiet Marcus Johnson faces renewed harassment, despite having nothing to do with recent events. Dr. Hendricks intercepts Simone between classes, her expression grave. "They're escalating because they know you won't let students pay for your conflicts. It's psychological warfare designed to isolate you." "Then they've miscalculated," Simone replies with quiet determination. "I didn't survive 12 years of boxing training to be manipulated by teenage bullies." The old gymnasium sits at the far edge of Riverside's campus, a relic from the school's earlier days that's been largely abandoned since the new athletic complex opened. Its isolated location makes it perfect for confrontations away from administrative oversight, exactly why Connor chose it as the site for their next encounter. As the final bell rings, Simone makes her decision. She changes from her professional attire into workout clothes kept in her car for emergency training sessions, then walks purposefully toward the old gym. Her phone displays Coach Murphy's number on speed dial, though she hopes avoiding involving authorities will keep her students out of further danger. The gymnasium's heavy doors creak open to reveal Connor, Marcus, and Benjamin waiting in the center of the dusty basketball court. But they're not alone. 6 other boys from their social circle form a loose semicircle, including several from the wrestling and football teams. Connor has assembled an intimidation squad designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers. "Finally decided to face us without hiding behind teachers and cameras?" Connor calls out, his voice echoing in the empty space. Simone walks forward calmly, her boxing-trained eyes automatically cataloging the positioning and body language of each potential opponent. Most appear nervous despite their numbers advantage. Friday's demonstration has clearly affected their confidence. "I'm here because you threatened innocent students," she states clearly. "This ends now, one way or another." Marcus steps forward with his wrestling singlet visible under an open shirt, clearly intending to rely on grappling techniques after Friday's striking failure. 8 against 1, teacher. Maybe you'll learn some respect. 8 scared teenagers. Against someone who spent her life training for exactly this kind of situation, Simone corrects with surprising gentleness. "Are you sure this is the path you want to choose?" Benjamin moves to flank her left side while signaling the others to spread out. His strategic mind recognizes that surrounding her limits her mobility, or so he believes. What he doesn't understand is that boxers train specifically for multiple opponent scenarios, learning to use positioning and movement to prevent being overwhelmed. Connor produces a wooden baseball bat from behind his back, his desperation evident in the escalation to weapons. "Let's see how tough you are now." The sight of the bat changes everything. What began as a schoolyard confrontation has crossed into assault with a deadly weapon territory. Simone's expression hardens as her training kicks into a different mode. Not sport boxing, but the self-defense applications Coach Murphy insisted she learn. "Connor, put the bat down," she warns, shifting into a fighting stance. "You're about to make this much worse for everyone involved." "I don't think so," Connor snarls, raising the bat above his head. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Now it's payback time." He swings downward with both hands gripping the bat, putting his full body weight behind a blow intended to seriously injure. But Simone's reaction showcases the difference between desperation and training. She steps inside the arc of his swing, too close for the bat to develop momentum, while simultaneously driving her elbow upward into his solar plexus. Connor doubles, over-gasping as the bat clatters harmlessly to the floor. Before he can recover, Simone's palm strike to his chest sends him stumbling backward into Benjamin, tangling both boys in an undignified heap. The 6 supporting players hesitate, their confidence evaporating as they watch their leader neutralized in seconds. Marcus charges with a wrestler's takedown attempt, but Simone's footwork carries her away from his grasping arms while her counterpunch lands precisely on his temple, not hard enough to cause serious damage, but sufficient to scramble his coordination. 2 football players approach from opposite sides, trying to use their size advantage. Simone flows between them like water, her boxing training allowing her to slip punches while delivering short, sharp combinations that target nerve clusters. Within moments, both athletes are clutching their ribs and questioning their life choices. Remaining 3 boys look between their defeated companions and Simone's calm, controlled presence. The woman isn't even breathing hard, her movements precise and economical in a way that suggests she could continue indefinitely. "Gentlemen," she addresses them with professional composure, "you have 2 choices. You can continue this foolishness and end up like your friends, or you can help them up and walk away. Either way, the harassment of my students stops today." One by one, they nod in defeated agreement. The psychological impact of watching 8 attackers, neutralized by superior skill and training, has shattered their faith in Connor's leadership. They help their groaning friends to their feet, while avoiding eye contact with the woman who's just redefined their understanding of power. Connor struggles upright, his face a mask of humiliation and rage. "This isn't over," he gasps. "My mother will. Your mother will see the security footage of you attacking a teacher with a baseball bat," Simone interrupts calmly. "I suggest you focus on explaining that rather than making more threats." As the group limps toward the exit in defeat, Simone picks up the discarded bat and examines it thoughtfully. The weapon represents a line crossed. Connor's desperation has pushed him into criminal behavior that even his family's influence can't easily excuse. She pulls out her phone and dials Dr. Hendricks' direct number. It's time to involve the proper authorities before Connor's escalating behavior seriously injures someone. The days of handling this quietly are over. The emergency meeting in Principal Morrison's office takes place at 7 a.m. the following Tuesday, 30 minutes before classes begin. Sunlight streams through tall windows as an unlikely assembly gathers around the polished conference table. Principal Morrison, Dr. Hendricks, 2 school board members, Riverside's head of security, and Senator Patricia Walsh herself. Senator Walsh commands attention even while seated, her silver hair perfectly styled and her navy suit projecting the authority of someone accustomed to having her way. The family resemblance to Connor is unmistakable, but where her son radiates entitled petulance, she embodies calculated political power. "I understand there's been an incident involving my son," she begins without preamble, her voice carrying the controlled tone of someone who's navigated countless political crises. "I'd like to review the facts before we proceed." Dr. Hendricks slides a tablet across the table, its screen displaying crystal-clear security footage from the old gymnasium. "This was recorded yesterday afternoon by our updated surveillance system. I should warn you that the content is quite disturbing." As the video plays, Senator Walsh's composed expression gradually crumbles. The footage shows Connor wielding a baseball bat with clear intent to harm, followed by Simone's defensive actions that neutralize 8 attackers with surgical precision. The audio captures every threat, every attempted assault, and Connor's final promise that this isn't over. "My God," whispers board member Eleanor Thorne, an elderly woman whose family has supported Riverside for 3 generations. "They attacked a teacher with weapons in our school." Senator Walsh's political instincts war with maternal protection as she processes the implications. The footage is damning, unedited, and completely contrary to the version Connor had tearfully presented. At home, her son hadn't been victimized by an aggressive teacher. He'd led a coordinated assault that could result in criminal charges. "Senator," Principal Morrison ventures nervously, "perhaps we could discuss this privately." "No." Her voice cuts through his attempt at damage control with the sharpness of someone who's made career-defining decisions under pressure. "This is a school board matter now. My son's behavior is inexcusable, and Ms. Washington acted in clear self-defense." The admission sends shockwaves through the room. Board members exchange glances while Dr. Hendricks barely conceals her satisfaction. After months of watching bullies operate with impunity, accountability is finally emerging from an unexpected source. Meanwhile, 3 floors below in her classroom, Simone greets her first-period students with the same warm professionalism she's maintained throughout her ordeal. But something has fundamentally changed in the school's atmosphere. Students who once whispered fearfully about Connor's crew now walk the halls with newfound confidence. Emma Martinez raises her hand during discussion of the crucible, her voice steady despite months of intimidation. "Ms. Washington," John Proctor says his name is all he has left. "Do you think standing up for your integrity is worth any cost?" The question carries obvious personal meaning, and Simone recognizes the girl's courage in speaking up after being targeted. "That's a profound observation, Emma. I think Miller is suggesting that we become our truest selves when we refuse to compromise our values, even when it's difficult." Other students nod thoughtfully, sensing the deeper conversation taking place. Marcus Johnson, the quiet boy who'd been framed with planted drugs, adds softly, "Sometimes you have to fight for what's right, even when you're scared." The transformation in these vulnerable students fills Simone with more satisfaction than any physical victory could provide. They're discovering their own voices, learning that bullies lose power when people refuse to be silenced. Back in the fun administrative offices, Senator Walsh faces the most challenging conversation of her political career. Her chief of staff has already called twice, warning that news outlets are sniffing around a story about her son's behavior. In today's climate, a senator's child attacking a black teacher with a weapon could end careers and destroy carefully built reputations. What are Ms. Washington's demands? She asks Dr. Hendricks directly, bypassing the nervous principal entirely. She hasn't made any demands, Dr. Hendricks replies truthfully. Her only concern has been protecting her students from further harassment. The answer clearly surprises Senator Walsh, who's accustomed to political negotiations where everyone wants something. She's not seeking monetary compensation, media attention, a platform to advance her career. Senator, I don't think you understand who we're dealing with, Dr. Hendricks says with gentle firmness. Ms. Washington is exactly what she appears to be, a dedicated educator who wants to teach literature and inspire young minds. Your son's group forced her into a situation she never wanted. As if summoned by their conversation, Simone appears in the doorway with a gentle knock. She's dressed professionally in a cream blouse and brown cardigan, her appearance modest and non-threatening despite the combat skills she'd demonstrated just hours earlier. Dr. Hendricks asked me to stop by, she says respectfully, through her eyes immediately assessing everyone present with the situational awareness her training provides. Senator Walsh studies the young woman who's become the center of her political crisis. She'd expected someone harder, more aggressive, the kind of person who might exploit this situation for personal gain. Instead, she sees a composed educator whose quiet strength reminds her uncomfortably of her own grandmother, a woman who'd fought for civil rights without seeking personal glory. Ms. Washington, Senator Walsh begins carefully, I owe you an apology for my son's behavior. What he did was unacceptable, and I want to discuss how we can make this right. Simone takes the offered seat across from the senator, her posture respectful but not deferential. I appreciate that, Senator Walsh, but this isn't really about me anymore. It's about creating a safe environment where all students can learn without fear. The response confirms Dr. Hendricks' assessment. This isn't someone seeking revenge or compensation, but an educator focused on systemic change. Senator Walsh recognizes a rare quality in modern politics, genuine integrity uncompromised by personal ambition. What would that look like? She asks. A comprehensive anti-bullying program with real accountability measures, Simone replies without hesitation. Counseling resources for both victims and perpetrators. Teacher training on recognizing and addressing harassment. And most importantly, a culture where reporting bullying is praised rather than punished. Eleanor Thorne leans forward with interest. Those are substantial changes requiring significant investment. Are you prepared to help develop such a program? I'd be honored to contribute, Simone says simply. The room falls silent as everyone processes the magnitude of what's being discussed. What began as a crisis management meeting has evolved into planning for fundamental reform. Senator Walsh realizes she's witnessing something remarkable. Her son's worst behavior has created an opportunity for positive change that could benefit countless students. There's one more matter, Principal Morrison interjects nervously. Connor and his associates. What consequences are they facing? Senator Walsh's expression hardens with maternal disappointment, mixed with political pragmatism. Connor will face the full consequences of his actions: suspension, mandatory counseling, community service, and a formal apology to every student he's harmed. His college applications will reflect his disciplinary record. The pronouncement represents a seismic shift from the protective instincts that had shielded Connor throughout his academic career. For the first time, his mother's political survival requires throwing him under the bus rather than covering for him. Furthermore, she continues, I'm establishing a scholarship fund in Ms. Washington's name for students who demonstrate courage in standing up to bullying. Sometimes our children teach us lessons we didn't know we needed to learn. As the meeting concludes with handshakes and commitment to change, Simone feels a profound sense of completion. The fight she'd never wanted has resulted in victories. She'd never imagined not just defeating bullies, but transforming the system that enabled them. Walking back to her classroom, she passes Connor in the hallway for the first time since their confrontation. The boy's swagger has been replaced by hunched shoulders and downcast eyes. He starts to veer away, but Simone calls his name gently. "Connor," she says when he reluctantly approaches, "this isn't the end of your story. What you do next determines who you become." The unexpected grace in her words seems to crack something in his defensive armor. For just a moment, the entitled mask slips to reveal a confused teenager who's lost the only identity he's ever known. "I don't know how to be different," he admits quietly. "That's where real growth begins," Simone replies with the same patience she'd show any struggling student. "Learning who you are when you can't rely on intimidation or your family's influence." As Connor walks away without his usual entourage, Simone realizes that her greatest victory isn't the physical confrontation or the policy changes. It's the possibility that even the worst bullies can find redemption when someone refuses to give up on their humanity. 6 months later, Riverside Academy bears little resemblance to the institution Simone first entered on that nervous September morning. The changes run deeper than new policies or administrative directives. They've transformed the very soul of the school community. What began as one teacher's refusal to be intimidated has blossomed into a comprehensive cultural revolution that touches every aspect of campus life. The Simone Washington Anti-Bullying Initiative has become a model program studied by educational institutions across New England. The multifaceted approach addresses not just the symptoms of harassment, but its root causes in privilege, entitlement, and the toxic dynamics that emerge when accountability is absent. Dr. Hendricks, now promoted to principal following Morrison's quiet resignation, oversees implementation with the passion of someone who's watched too many good teachers driven away by institutional cowardice. Student peer mediation programs train young people to recognize and diffuse conflicts before they escalate. The Courage Corps, a student-led organization inspired by Emma Martinez's transformation, provides support networks for vulnerable students while creating safe spaces for honest conversations about power, privilege, and personal responsibility. These aren't superficial feel-good initiatives, but substantive programs that address the systematic changes necessary for lasting cultural shifts. The old gymnasium where Simone faced 8 attackers has been converted into the Washington Wellness Center, featuring not just boxing equipment and martial arts training, but comprehensive mental health resources, conflict resolution workshops, and leadership development programs. The irony isn't lost on anyone that the space where bullying reached its ugly peak now serves as the epicenter of healing and growth. Emma Martinez stands before a group of incoming freshmen, her transformation from terrified victim to confident advocate nothing short of remarkable. The scholarship student who once cowered in fear now leads orientation sessions on finding your voice, sharing her story with the kind of authentic vulnerability that reaches hearts and changes minds. 6 months ago, I was afraid to raise my hand in class, she tells the wide-eyed 14-year-olds. I thought if I stayed invisible, maybe the bullies would leave me alone. Ms. Washington taught me that silence isn't safety, it's surrender. Real safety comes from standing together and refusing to let fear make our choices. In the audience, parents wipe away tears as they witness the kind of leadership development their expensive tuition payments had promised, but rarely delivered. These aren't scripted presentations by privileged students reading from prepared remarks, but genuine testimonials from young people who've discovered their own strength through adversity. Marcus Johnson, the quiet boy who'd been framed with planted drugs, now serves as president of the Reformed Student Council. His first initiative eliminated the social hierarchies that had allowed Connor's crew to operate with impunity, replacing them with merit-based leadership opportunities that recognize character over connections. The transformation in his confidence is evident as he facilitates discussions about fairness, justice, and the responsibility that comes with privilege. We can't change what happened before. He addresses a packed auditorium during the spring assembly, but we can decide what happens next. Every day, we choose whether to use our voices to build each other up or tear each other down. The applause that follows isn't the polite recognition typical of school assemblies, but the enthusiastic appreciation of a community that's discovered its capacity for genuine transformation. Students who once walked hallways in fear now move with the confidence that comes from knowing their voices matter, their experiences are valued, and their safety is protected. Connor Walsh's journey represents perhaps the most complex element of Riverside's transformation. The boy who once ruled through intimidation and entitlement has spent 6 months in intensive counseling, community service, and the humbling process of making amends to every person he'd harmed. The work hasn't been easy. Dismantling years of toxic behavior requires confronting uncomfortable truths about privilege, power, and personal responsibility. His mother's political career survived the initial scandal, largely because Senator Walsh chose transparency over cover-up, accountability over protection. Her public acknowledgement of her son's behavior, combined with her leadership in funding anti-bullying initiatives across Connecticut, transformed a potential career-ending crisis into an opportunity for meaningful legislative reform. Connor himself has become an unlikely advocate for change, speaking at conferences about the destructive nature of unchecked privilege and the importance of early intervention in bullying behavior. His presentations lack the polished charm he once wielded as a weapon, replaced by genuine remorse and hard-earned wisdom. "I thought power meant making people afraid of me," he tells a gathering of educators and parents, his voice carrying none of his former arrogance. "I was wrong. Real power is helping people become who they're meant to be," Ms. Washington showed me that by refusing to let me destroy myself completely. Benjamin Chung's transformation has taken a different path, channeling his strategic intelligence toward positive ends through the school's new restorative justice program. His analytical mind, once used to orchestrate campaigns of psychological warfare, now designs intervention strategies that address conflicts before they escalate into violence. The program he developed pairs former bullies with their victims in carefully facilitated conversations that focus on understanding impact, accepting responsibility, and creating paths toward healing. It's delicate work requiring the kind of emotional intelligence Benjamin had to develop from scratch, but the results speak for themselves in reduced disciplinary incidents and improved school climate surveys. Marcus Rodriguez, the former enforcer, whose physical intimidation had terrorized countless students, discovered an unexpected calling in the school's new athletic mentorship program. His wrestling skills, once used to dominate and humiliate, now serve to teach younger students about discipline, respect, and the difference between strength and brutality. "I used to think being tough meant hurting people," he explains to a group of middle school wrestlers during a Saturday training session. "Coach Washington taught me that real toughness is protecting people who can't protect themselves." The reference to Coach Washington reflects another dimension of Simone's expanding role within the Riverside community. Her boxing expertise has evolved into a comprehensive self-defense and confidence-building program that attracts students from across the socio-economic spectrum. The sight of scholarship students training alongside senators' children represents the kind of genuine integration that money can't buy but character can achieve. Sarah Kim, the sophomore who'd been threatened into delivering Connor's ultimatum, now serves as a peer counselor specializing in helping students navigate the complex dynamics of privilege and intimidation. Her gentle approach and personal experience with vulnerability make her uniquely qualified to reach students who might otherwise suffer in silence. "Ms. Washington saved my scholarship and my dignity," she reflects during a training session for new peer counselors. "But more importantly, she taught me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The ripple effects of transformation extend far beyond Riverside's campus boundaries. Other schools have implemented similar programs, creating a network of institutions committed to addressing bullying through systemic change rather than superficial interventions. Educational conferences feature presentations on the Riverside model, examining how one teacher's courage catalyzed comprehensive reform. Coach Ray Murphy visits from Detroit for the spring graduation ceremony, his weathered face beaming with pride as he watches his former student receive the Connecticut Educator of the Year award. The ceremony takes place in the renovated gymnasium where Simone had faced her greatest challenge. The symbolism lost on no one present. She called me one night, scared and uncertain, he tells the assembled crowd during his introduction speech. I told her the same thing I'd been telling her for 12 years. Real fighters don't look for fights, but they sure as hell finish them when they're forced to defend what matters. The award itself matters less to Simone than the transformed faces in the audience. Students who'd arrived at Riverside, broken by previous experiences, now sit with the confident posture of young people who've discovered their worth. Parents who'd worried about their children's safety now beam with pride at the character development they've witnessed. Dr. Hendricks presents the award with tears in her eyes, her voice thick with emotion as she addresses the woman who'd saved her school from its own toxic culture. Simone Washington didn't just defend herself that day in the dining hall. She defended the idea that education should nurture courage, not enable cruelty. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition comes from Connor Walsh himself, who approaches the podium with the nervous energy of someone still learning to navigate humility. His prepared remarks dissolve as he looks directly at Simone, his voice cracking with genuine emotion. Ms. Washington, I hated you for showing me who I really was, he begins, the auditorium falling silent at his unexpected honesty. You could have destroyed me completely after what I did. Instead, you held me accountable while still believing I could change. That's not just good teaching, that's grace. The applause that follows feels different from typical graduation ceremonies, carrying the weight of authentic transformation rather than polite recognition. Connor's journey from entitled bully to reflective young man represents hope for anyone who's ever believed that people can't really change. As the ceremony concludes and families gather for pictures, Simone finds herself surrounded by students whose lives she's touched in ways both large and small. Emma Martinez hugs her tightly, whispering thanks for showing her that scholarship students belong wherever their talents can take them. Marcus Johnson shakes her hand with the firm grip of someone who's learned to channel strength into protection rather than intimidation. Even Connor approaches for a final conversation, his former entourage nowhere to be seen. Benjamin and Marcus Rodriguez stand nearby, but as genuine friends rather than co-conspirators. The dynamic between them has fundamentally shifted from hierarchical dominance to mutual respect and support. What's next for you? Simone asks Connor, genuinely curious about his future plans. Community college for now, he replies without embarrassment. I need to earn my way into a 4-year program instead of relying on my mother's influence. It's humbling, but I think that's exactly what I need. The admission represents growth that seemed impossible 6 months earlier. The boy who'd once believed his family's wealth and power made him untouchable now understands that real achievement requires personal effort and character development. As the last families leave the gymnasium, Simone stands alone in the space where her greatest challenge had unfolded. The boxing skills that brought her victory that day had been important, but not in the way she'd expected. The real power hadn't come from her ability to defeat 8 attackers, but from her refusal to let their hatred make her hateful in return. She thinks about her father, the soldier who'd taught her that strength serves to protect others, not to dominate them. She imagines his pride in watching her use everything he'd instilled: discipline, courage, and an unshakable commitment to justice, to transform not just her own circumstances, but an entire community's understanding of what education can accomplish. The succulent on her windowsill has grown into a thriving plant, its resilient nature reflecting the transformation that's taken root throughout Riverside Academy. What began as one woman's determination to teach literature has evolved into comprehensive demonstration that courage is contagious, that authenticity is powerful, and that even the most entrenched, toxic systems can be changed when people refuse to accept them as inevitable. Walking to her car as the sunset paints the campus in warm colors, Simone carries with her the knowledge that real victory isn't measured in defeated opponents, but in transformed lives. Connor Walsh and his crew had forced her into a fight she'd never wanted, but in doing so, they'd created an opportunity for the kind of meaningful change that shapes generations. The Simone Washington Anti-Bullying Initiative will continue long after she eventually moves on to new challenges. The students she's inspired will carry forward the lessons about courage, integrity, and the responsibility that comes with strength. Most importantly, they'll remember that real power lies not in dominating others, but in helping them discover their own capacity for greatness. As she drives away from Riverside Academy on this perfect spring evening, Simone Washington knows with absolute certainty that she's accomplished everything she came to achieve and more. She'd arrived as a teacher, hoping to inspire young minds through literature. She's leaving as an educator who used her entire life experience, including 12 years of boxing training, to demonstrate that the most important battles aren't won in gymnasiums or boxing rings, but in the daily choice to stand up for what's right, regardless of the personal cost. The bullies who'd thought they could break her had unknowingly created the perfect conditions for their own transformation and the birth of something beautiful, lasting, and infinitely more powerful than anything they'd tried to destroy. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.